My name's Nick Shaffer. I'm the Vice President of Sales for TVI MarketPro3. We're a Houston-based family-owned fixed operations marketing company that specializes on partnering with franchise car dealers to help them grow their RO count and chase whatever business growth goals they have. And Joe Sassin, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. Joe Sassin. They call me the Fixed Ops Assassin. I don't know why, but it's stuck with me for many, many years now, so I decided to own it, quite literally.
Love it.
Been doing this longer than I'd like to count, but somewhere in the mid 35 plus year range. Started as a technician and moved through management. And then just about 5 years ago now, we started BCJS Enterprises, which is now a parent company of 7 different businesses that we run, and it's all related to fixed ops. Yeah, we're excited. It's been a fun year. We've got probably 5 of them started this year, and we had a couple from last year we carried over. But it's been a really fun ride, and helping dealers find profitability and process, and it's been a lot of fun.
Good deal. So the way this all came about was I was working with Kelly Stewart, our marketing content manager. We were doing a video, and she was interviewing me to get some content out there for, it was really directed at service managers and general managers, giving just my own insights about what KPIs those individuals should be paying attention to on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, specifically as it pertains to finance management. And I gave my opinions on that, and you dropped a comment and said, "Hey, I've got some insight on this, and we should do a podcast." So here we are.
Outstanding. Yeah, it's always been a passion of mine. We've overthought that goal setting and budgeting and overcomplicated it. So I thought, you know what, let's have a conversation about how easy this is to do, and how much we can work together on helping dealers understand it more effectively and be more productive with it and profitable with it.
Well, for whatever it's worth, Joe, I'm thrilled that you dropped that comment, because had you not, we wouldn't be doing this. And you and I have spent quite a bit of time together, mostly at the most recent NADA, and we've had lots of discussions about fixed ops management. And I'm very, very excited to get your insights, because I perceive you to be a very, very bright fixed ops mind. So jumping right into it, if you're working with a fixed operations director in a consultative environment in a dealership on goal setting, would you mind describing what your philosophy is and your approach to that topic?
Sure, absolutely. Goal setting is really simple. We're talking about managers look at gross, they look at total sales, some look at hours per RO, effective labor rate. Mm-hmm. They're all good measurables, and we're going to get to some of that detail later. But the basic goal for fixed operations, or at least for service, is as simple as how many techs do you have? What is the hours expectation of performance for each day? How many working days in the month do you have? How many Saturdays are you working? How many techs are going to be on Saturdays? And it's simple math.
Mm-hmm.
If you blended average is 8 hours a day per tech times how many techs you have, that's how you figure out a goal. It's a very, very simple mathematical equation. I was terrible at math in high school and just barely snuck through my senior year to get out to graduate. It's not really hard to do that kind of math. I can do that math.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, safe to assume that approach easily and logically translates from setting your monthly goal to creating an annual forecast. You're just instead of looking at it as, how many fixed days do I have this month? Am I open however many Saturdays? You just look at the entire year's calendar and create your forecast and make little adjustments right before you step into that individual month. Is it really that simple?
It's that simple, but honestly, I've never been a fan of annual forecasts, just because our business, as much as we call it fixed operations, there's nothing really fixed about it. Can't tell you how many times I've sat down, and I think you and I have even talked about this in the past, sit down with managers, say, how do you set goals? Hey, we want to beat last year by 10%. Okay.
Where's that coming from?
If you're a Nissan Infinity store, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe that's not a good idea. But
sure.
Any store, if you had 10 techs last year and you have 15 techs now and you beat last year by 10%, you're doing a terrible job. And you should really understand that every single month it changes. Maybe in October, you're going to have a guy on vacation and one guy in training. So you've got two weeks of productivity that you subtract out of your month. Another example to use Infinity again is they just went through an engine recall, at least phase one of the engine recalls. So comparing your warranty time or warranty hours or your total hours to last year, it's a different number now because we had a whole bunch of heavy repair that we did. So looking at on a month-to-month basis is really the best way to do it. But what I tell technicians or tell managers, at the last day of the month or the first 3 days of the month, it's already too late to set your goal for the month. Right?
Without a doubt.
Right now, it's September 12th. You should be able to tell me from October 1st to the 31st of next month how many hours we can project. We know what our vacation plan is, our days off for holidays, whatever it is, we know what our numbers are going to be next month. Hey, we got a new guy starting October 1st. Great. We need to put that guy into the equation. You can give yourself an idea of what the year's going to look like, but it does change every single month, and it changes with the business, recalls. There's some headlight recalls and taillight recalls. It just depends on the brand, but those ebb and flow your business all the time. Another opportunity that we see in goal setting is using you guys, for example, is you're bringing in a lot of those older cars. We lost so much market share from 2020 to 23, not being able to sell the cars at the volume we were selling it through 2019, whatever it was, 19 million SAR, 17 million, so whatever the number was, we dropped to the 10, probably, I think it was less than 10 million sold in a couple of years there. So it's killing our business.
Yes, it is. Fewer units in operation on those cars that would have the higher response rates because a lot of them are still under warranty or just fell out.
Right. And you guys are helping bring in those second owner, third owner, fourth owner vehicles to say, hey, the dealership's not too expensive. They're the subject matter experts. Come check us out and we'll give you a good deal and get the car in the door. So we're seeing higher average mileage. In our 120 or 30 stores we work with on a regular basis, the average mileage is in the 60,000+ mile range. Average mileage of everything they see in the service department. That's an incredible number.
It is.
If you can't sell on that, then you've got some other opportunities, right? Let's
talk about it.
Selling challenges or selling training.
I can tell based on how you speak on goal setting and forecasting in general, Joe, you've done this for years. You're fluent in this back of your hand. And I can also tell that you've coached a lot of people through the thought process of it. If you look back on all the different times that you've coached a GM, an FOD, a service manager through goal setting, what blind spots do you often find they have that are an obstacle for them?
Overthinking.
Yeah.
They just overthinking. Well, I can't use 8 hours as an average. I got a guy out there turning 50 hours a week. Okay. What about your oil change guy, right? They're not turning 50 or most of them aren't even turning 40. So let's count the oil change guys at effectively a good, productive, quick service technician is 20 to 30 hours a week. We have some that we work with, they're 45, 50 hours. It's a rarity, but those guys are typically not as productive. What we start with is take all of your techs in the shop, give me a 90-day average of all of what they're flagging, and then you have your idea of what your average flat rate hours per week, divide it by how many techs you have. Now you can set an effective, realistic, attainable goal. We built a very easy tool to use. We call the hot dog, hamburger, chicken, steak calculator, and it's baseline. If everybody hits their target average number, here's how many hours you're going to do, times your effective labor rate, times your gross profit percentage. Here's what your targeted gross profit is for the month in labor. 10% over that is everybody improves or a couple guys improve. Well, if you hit the baseline, we're going to cook hot dogs. You hit the 10%, we'll cook hamburgers, and then so on. It's chicken and steak.
I love it.
We've got some ideas and plans that we've put in place where you put rewards out for technicians. We've bought flat screen TVs. I had one dealer that bought a off-road 4x4 and gave it away in the shop. It was a 3-month contest. He was cooking steak for the technicians for all 3 months.
And I bet he was happy to do it.
Yeah, exactly. They had 3 of the best months in the history of the store.
That's incredible.
And what happened when they stopped doing contests? They went back to what their averages were.
Yep.
The other challenge I hear a lot from dealers, because I always start with the dealers. Our motto, a new way of thinking, is really not a new way of thinking. It's just my mission to teach dealers that are unsure, uncomfortable, or don't quite understand fixed ops, that it's just a sales department, right? So the pushback I get from dealers is, well, why don't the techs want to flag more hours? They were going to make more money. Sure. When I was a tech, back in the long, late 80s, early 90s, I knew how many hours I had to flag to pay my bills. And I had a race car at the time, so I need a little extra. But if I hit 70 hours every week, and I did that on day 3, I was on cruise control the rest of the week.
You're good.
I'm good. My bills are paid. We struggle as an industry of communicating overall goals to the technicians and say, hey, this is where we want to be. We're going to do this together. And if we do this, this is the reward you're going to get. You don't necessarily have to cook hot dogs, hamburgers, chicken, steak. You can give away prizes. You can give away gift cards. Take the family to dinner. We've done cruises as giveaways for the highest productivity over their 90-day average. It's not the highest productive tech. It's based on their individual goals. Yep. So if you set a reward, base it on where I'm at. Goal setting, again, we have so many dealerships that have the bonus at 50 hours a week. Okay, great. 30-hour guy, 35-hour guy that's a C-level tech, or maybe an up-and-coming tech that's still learning. I'm not going to get to 50 hours, so I'm not going to try. Because if I try to get 50, I'm going to break something, or I'm going to get more rechecks, and I'm going to get fired. So I'm just going to keep doing what I do. Give that 35-hour guy a goal of 37 hours and give him a little incentive, 50 cents on the dollar, $1 per extra for every hour he flags. And then slowly those numbers will increase. You're going to get the whole shop to increase to another level. And you've got the 70, 80-hour week technicians. Those guys are a little more challenging to motivate, but you find what motivates them.
Yep.
Helping somebody, give them an incentive, give them a tool truck card. Go help that technician on that problem. There's a new guy back there. See what you can do to help them out. There's always a way to motivate.
So let's say that you've worked with your client, you've got goals, you've got the right principles for goal setting instilled in that store. Goals are set, and now we're transitioning our thinking to actually measuring performance. Looking back at my time in retail, and before working for TVI, I worked in fixed operations retail and started doing so by writing service in a Lexus dealership. And like many service advisors across the country at the time, my personal compensation was driven by hours per repair order and effective labor rate and CSI. And when I got my very first job as a service manager, I naturally continued to focus on those KPIs. And I think that my journey and focus is, I would assume, relatively common amongst new service managers. So what advice would you give a service manager regarding the importance of hours per repair order?
It's a measurable that needs to be looked at and paid attention to. We also have case studies and work that we've done where we see service advisors at 4.5 hours per RO is, oh man, that guy's the best guy I got out there. What about the one over there? And I have documented proof that's at 2.7, but their gross per RO is $100 more, right? Anybody can shove, call it whatever, fluid exchanges, fluff and stuff to get an hours per RO goal. But if there's no gross tied to that, it's not a good job. We measure everything. We have a very slick service advisor performance report we do. We grade them and rank them based on gross per RO. We do measure hours per RO, but they're not ranked by that. Gross per RO is always the most effective way. I had my mentor, Lee Harkins, taught me, used to teach us in class, you can't spend 1%. Everybody chases 1%. You can't spend 1%. Well, you know what? You can't spend hours per RO. It helps your profitability, but if you're over flagging or doing, very low dollar incremental hours to get your hours per RO up, but your gross is half of what it is if it's not a quality RO, it's ineffective. The gross is what we spend. That's how we get paid. That's how our dealers get paid. That's what pays the bills in the store. So we measure everything by gross per RO. As far as effective labor rate, it's another good dealer conversation. We get a lot of pushback or a lot of incentives and advisor pay plans for effective labor rate goals and bonuses. And I'm of the opinion that it's not the service advisor's job to manage effective labor rate, right? And the way I'm pitching it to the dealers is If you let the salespeople go out in the parking lot and negotiate the price of the car, what are you gonna do with that sales? Probably fire them on the spot.
Yep.
Right? Why do we let our service advisors negotiate the prices of our services? A discount is fine, but why does it have to be 10%? We set the price. The desk in the service department is the manager, and sometimes the dealer. This is what we want to charge for our door rate. Here's what we're trying to get in our warranty labor rate. All of your services should be priced out. All of your repairs should have a door rate or a grid in place. There shouldn't be a deviation from that. If I'm bonusing an advisor on effective labor rate, and it's a significant number, say if your door rate's 200 and you got to have a $180, $185 effective labor rate to hit your bonus, I'm not going to write oil changes. Those first-time customers, I'm not going to sell that work. Those tire jobs, I'm not going to sell the tire jobs. There's no money in it for me. That's going to hurt my bonus. Manage that gross per RO. Absolutely. Sure, oil changes and tires are low gross, but it's the volume you're going to get out of that too. Just that effective labor rate goal for service advisors, it's not their job to manage it. It's the desk manager is the service manager, and that's who sets the price.
Couldn't agree more. And is it safe to say that if you teach that mindset to the dealer, to the service manager, to the advisor, it affects the culture of the store? Because to your point, what would you do if your salesperson did a road test with a customer and started negotiating price without the involvement of the desk? The guy would probably lose his job. If you have a culture and an expectation where the service manager sets the price and the advisor isn't focused on retaining effective labor rate because that's not his or her choice, I think that has a cultural impact too. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about the shop. So like I said, I got my first service management gig right after being a service advisor for several years, and I didn't know very much about managing the shop. And looking back on the first store that I managed, I had a few foremen that really helped me understand how to track productivity, efficiency, proficiency. Dan, Lance, Eric, if you happen to be watching this, you know who you are and you know that I appreciate you. How do you approach this seemingly complex performance management topic in the shop?
Same way we've been talking about. Start with a 90-day average. Proficiency, productivity, it's all important. But again, you have to individualize those goals. And every technician has their own way. We work very, very strongly or heavily with a dealer group up in Cleveland. They have a guy that's probably in his late 60s. He's a Corvette certified technician. He works probably 30 hours a week. He's the only Corvette certified guy they have in the shop, which they're working on. He's not going to turn 50, 60 hours a week. If he turns 20, 25, he's happy. His number's terrible, right? You throw him out if you're measuring and holding accountable to a productivity number. So everyone, we want them to do 8 hours a day. It's just not practical for every single person in the shop. So effectively is set the goal based on their 90-day average, do a rolling 90-day average all the time, talk with the technicians each week about where they're at, if they were over their goal, under their goal. If they're over the goal, give them an incentive for that. Give them a bonus for that. If they're under that goal, find out why. We have a technician interview sheet that we really strongly encourage everybody to do. And 9 out of 10 times, if the dealer's involved in that conversation, the dealer finds out where all his opportunities are in his service department.
Without a doubt.
Workloads, fair dispatch, equipment. That same guy that gave away the golf cart or the 4x4 side by side found out that there was probably $50,000 worth of broken equipment in the shop. He never knew that. Because nobody said anything.
Sure.
The techs were going to the manager saying, "Hey, our tire machine doesn't work because the head's broken on it. We can't fix that right now. Just figure a way around it." We have 3 broken diagnostic computers. We can't spend any money right now. The dealer's going, "What are you talking about?"
Yep.
This is a big dealer group too, and they went out and fixed everything right off the bat. That was the first month of the huge increase in productivity because the techs were like, "Oh my God, they do actually care about us." Go talk to your technicians.
Yeah.
There's still so many that have that, I say, old school mentality, and I'm from the old school.
Yep.
They don't leave the sales department. They'll say hi to the service manager. They might say hi to a couple service advisors. They go back up front. And I know the most successful guys out there know every technician in the shop by name, know their wives' name, know their kids' names, know what their hobbies are. that's the culture to create longevity, to create happy technicians that know that, hey, if things go south, I know I can go talk to the dealer. I don't have to be afraid. Or he's not going to come talk to me because I just resigned. He's going to be involved in the whole conversation from the beginning.
Yeah, I love it. I've certainly got a lot out of the conversation, Joe. Let me see if I missed anything. So as it relates to goal setting, your recommendation is don't overcomplicate it. It's simple math. Calculate your available days, available hours, number of technicians. Pay certain attention to what trends are fluxing in or fluxing out regarding recall specific to your brand, and you can back into your forecast. But when you're working on goal setting with your team, that shouldn't be a departmental goal. That should be an individual goal, so that someone who's writing at, X number of dollars in gross profit per ticket is looking to level up their game and not necessarily chase a number that's too far ahead of them or already behind them. Same thing with the guys in the shop. And that gross per ticket goal is your North Star, way more so than hours per repair order and effective labor rate. Did I miss anything? Properly recap that, because those are all great pickups.
Gross per RO is PVR.
Yep, it absolutely is, and
it's as simple as that for dealers that are watching. Well, PVR is the goal in sales. Units are hours, and PVR is what you're trying to achieve.
Well, the other big takeaway that I don't want anybody listening to this to breeze past is you recommended for the service manager with their staff, their performance-based staff, with the advisors, with the technicians, to meet with them weekly and go over how they're tracking as it relates to their goals. I would imagine that the average service manager perceives that he or she doesn't have the time for that or won't get a return on investment on that time, but obviously you feel that it's important.
Absolutely important. You're gonna print their flag sheets, whether they're paid weekly or bi-monthly. You're gonna print their flag sheets. You're gonna walk through the shop, hand them out, make sure they're right before you process payroll. Squeeze their muscles if they did a great job, and put your arm around and say, hey man, you had a little bit of a rough week. The best operators are printing those flag sheets every day and walking out the shop going, hey man, you only flagged 2 hours yesterday. I know you got the big job over there, but what can I do to help you? If I get a 30K off the drive, I'll make sure you get it. Or if we get a good used car ticket, we can filter your way. We want to make sure we keep your numbers up. Those guys are top performers. Yeah. And there's plenty of them out there. There's plenty of them that just get so tied up in working in their business, they forget to work on their business. That's working on their business.